Happy New Year, great morning, and welcome to, I guess we'll say, a new season of Rise Up with Dragon. As I was going through, I wouldn't call them my New Year's resolutions, but just evaluating what I wanted more of and what I wanted less of, and then moving on to what I committed to, because today's episode is about goal getting rather than just goal setting.
Great morning, world! Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon!
Get into the float state with Calm Mind meditations and gear.
Great morning, world. Very excited to be here for my first live show of the new year. So happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy 2022. First thought that comes to my mind is at 50 years old, I just remember back to times where I didn't even consider 2022. I remember when I was young, 2022 was so far away. And this kind of touches on a lot of stuff that I talk about the value of time and that mortality mentality. I remember a time where, like, if somebody said, I wonder what things will be like in 2022, I remember it was so inconceivable that we would ever get there, or it was so far away, like it didn't warrant any thought. So it's just so crazy to just, that's a good practice in gratitude and, just getting in the present moment. Like, we're in 2022. I don't know what 2022 means to you, but it was something that I never fathomed would ever happen. So, happy New Year, great morning, and welcome to, I guess we'll say, a new season of Rise Up with Dragon. As I was going through, I wouldn't call them my New Year's resolutions, but just evaluating what I wanted more of and what I wanted less of, and then moving on to what I committed to, because today's episode is about goal getting rather than just goal setting. And I'm going to take you through that process. And I was just evaluating all of that stuff. And I'm just really excited as far as the podcast goes, this podcast, for those of you that are enjoying it and using it correctly, the correct way to use this podcast is to integrate it into the structure of your morning. Even if it's just a little bit, it's a morning show. It happens twice a week. We drop one per week, typically in the podcast. So, and there's, almost 75. So if you integrate it into your morning structure, it's intended, as I say, to, help remove the blindfolds of your mind so that you can gain access to higher levels of something that already exists on some level, and that's your state of consciousness. And by doing that for the day, win the morning, win the day, it'll help you tap into your true great potential. And we do that with the podcast, and there's a newsletter you can sign up for. So I hope that you're enjoying it. But back to my goals and my goal getting, I didn't set a goal for my podcast for this year. I set it for the next 5 years. So I'm already committed to doing this podcast for 5 years. I know how many episodes I'll have, and I'm excited to see, how I evolve as the dragon. Couple of quick things before we start. Coming up soon, I don't know if any of you have been paying attention, but I signed up for school. I'm going back to school to become a DJ. Always wanted to be a DJ, not as a career, but I bought all of the equipment. In my podcast studio right now looking, and I have these abnormally large speakers, which I don't need, and this huge Pioneer DJ setup, which is way more than I need, but why not? Why not go all the way, go big? And I'm starting to get good at it. Chicken and our little girl, who's here now, and you'll meet her because I'm going to interview her. So I'm going to be called DJ Dragonanda. So just beware, because my visual of that is I'm going to DJ for a large crowd one day and just juice them with my beats. Another cool thing for those of you that like Clubhouse, the audio platform, we're going to be starting a great friend of mine and I, Mark Savant, and a lot of really, really talented people. We're going to be starting a new podcast and Clubhouse room. And it's going to be for people that want to learn about the metaverse, but blockchain, Web3, NFTs, and all that stuff. So it's right as of right now, it's going to be called Making Sense of the Metaverse. And it's going to be a place where you can learn and then earn as we move into this next reality. So just know that that's coming. So in any case, welcome, Rise Up, number one really of the new year. And I think it's going to be episode like 80 by the time it drops. But we're going to talk about goal getting today. So just as a quick reference, for those of you that are in observation mode of me or anybody else and you're absorbing and consuming information, I always challenge you every now and then to change the way you're looking at that interaction as you're receiving what they're giving. And I always challenge you to question why they're giving it, because there's a lot of magic in that. So you're looking at me and I come to this, every day and I'm just talking about all this stuff. Why am I doing that? What's in it for me? So I just wrote a couple of things down because I like to reassess that, especially when I commit to something for 5 years. So what's in it for me? Well, to teach us to learn twice. So are you doing that in your life? Are you taking things that you're jazzed up about or that you receive, messages from the universe? Are you writing them down? Here's mine for today. I do that every single day, but then I take it and then I unpack it and I explain it to you guys. So to teach us to learn twice. So that's selfishly what's in it for me. The second thing is that I've made a distinction in my life. Here's another blessing that you can consider today as you go. The greatest gift that we will ever receive in life, the greatest gift and joy that we'll ever receive in life will be found in helping others, not yourself, helping others get what they want and potentially struggle to have. So that being said, another selfish reason that I do this is that it makes me feel really good. And the third one is that it gives me self-worth and significance to help others get what they want. So if you are just in a consuming mode in your life right now, and you're not paying forward what it is that you consume or taking your God-given talents and giving it to other people, you're missing out on the greatest lessons and empowerments and upgrades for yourself, but also the greatest joys and blessings. So take that and put it in your pipe and smoke it. So let's talk about goal getting. So always in observation, always using the interface response system. And the first step of that, in creating a more efficient response and, reaction so I can stay on track in life. I'm just always looking at and challenging the way I perceive things. So it's for me lately, especially at this time of the year, it's been really fascinating to look at the reality of goals. Because obviously, timestamp, it's January 7th when I'm recording this. So it's just really, really fascinating to look at the reality of goals. So in my observation, and I coach a lot of people, a lot of people reach out to me and I help them with physical, mental, and financial transformation. And that's what I do. That's what I do for money. I don't do this for money. This is that selfish act that I just told you about before. But in my observation, there's 3 types of people. So as I go through these 3 types, I just want you to kind of like typecast yourself. What's cool about podcasts is nobody knows, right? You can just like wink at yourself. So there's 3 types of people. So there are those, type 1, there are those that have no goals. And I can understand why somebody doesn't have goals. There could be fears associated, fear of failure, fear of success, or, sometimes we just like hide behind this idea of saying like, I don't know, it's safe, stay in your bed. So there's people that have no goals and just kind of hope things stay neutral, right? So sometimes our goal, which by the way is a goal, it is a goal to hope things don't get worse, stay the same and don't get worse. And, the society kind of makes us think that that's an invalid goal. That's a goal. If you need to lose 100 pounds, but you lose 50 and your goal is to just keep the 50 off and not go any further, that's a massive win, right? So they kind of just sit around and hope things stay neutral and get better, right? So that makes me think of my previous guest and great friend, Corey Baker. I don't know if you saw that episode. That was awesome. And he wrote a book called Chasing Better. So a lot of people want better, but they're not chasing better because they don't have any goals. So this is the group that can't answer the question with detail and description. And that question would be, what are your goals for the new year? So if I came up to you out of nowhere and surprised you and said, what are your goals for the new year? And you can't answer it, and you require the question asker, me, to like meticulously, a lot of time coaches and guides will like pull it out of the person, right? And the problem with that is that if I pull out your goals, I'm leading you kind of to believe in something that I see that you don't believe in. So it's a little bit dicey, but they require the person asking the question to meticulously go through a series of strategic digging and leading of questions to help them see the goal and then coax them into setting a goal and creating the hypothetical idea of going after it. The challenge here is that it's not their idea, but the idea of the question asker. Very, very low rate of success, maybe immeasurable. If you haven't set a goal and somebody pulls it out of you, better than nothing, but not a big rate of success. So they might benefit from looking at the goal and maybe tasting it in conversation with the asker. If the goal, tasting if the possibility of the goal could be a reality. But since it's not their idea, they will easily justify this first category. They'll easily justify. Some people set goals or had a goal pulled out of them or watched a commercial or something, and it's January 7th, they've already quit on it. And the reason why they quit is because they justified quitting based on the fact that it wasn't their idea. That's a great way to get out of a goal that you've set, is to just make a claim that like, that's not my goal, right? You have to have a goal that's yours. It wasn't theirs, it was somebody else's. So then the second group, let's upgrade a little bit. Then there are the people that are goal setters, right? And I'll give you some statistics on that. A lot of Tony Robbins fans here, personal growth people. And when I say Tony Robbins, I love Tony Robbins. He's just a huge powerhouse in that movement. Changed the world, in my opinion. However, a lot of people just consume and listen to stuff, which is kind of like the first category anyway, but they come into the new year, or maybe even take the advice of these great leaders and set their goal in October, because the statistics say you got to set your goal 3 months before. But those are the goal setters. Okay, they buy journals and they top 10 and they go through exercises. They even get in like groups of people and they set goals. So those people are goal oriented and might even follow a structured goal setting strategy, right? I'm going to teach you a strategy here, but it's just going to be a strategy to help you set a goal. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. And I'll give you the stats on that. So they might go through a strategy, that's laid out by society or some of the greats in personal growth, as I said. This group varies in great, great detail based on how serious. And when I say they vary in detail, I mean their results. They vary in great detail based on how serious they are about goal setting, as well as the urgency of the acquisition of the goal. So there's a little bit of a hint. It's one thing when my 15 days of discipline finally comes out, you'll see that the part of it where I teach you guys to set goals, there's an exercise that I give you that very, very clearly distinguishes the difference between something you want, something you need, and something you must have. So the urgency of a goal setter plays a big role in it. Because if they don't look at it and say, I need that like I need air when my head is underwater, they're not going to go after it. So the majority of these folks in group 2 unconsciously think that setting a goal carries enough strength to reach it. Think about that. If you're in the new year and you have set goals and you wrote them out and somebody told you, some smart person told you to put them everywhere, and I don't know, whatever that structure is, sometimes you think that that's enough to make, we have all these power of attraction and affirmations and everything like that. A lot of times goal setters think that just setting the goal makes it happen. So they actually think that the goal is to set the goal. And that's all they have to do. And, they kind of know you need to go into full action and all that stuff, but that's the hard part, right? So goal setters, most of them don't go past the setting. And that's why they don't experience the getting. So their challenge lies in execution. So once the work comes into play, and this is fascinating for me, I meet people all the time that come to me and they're hopped up on things like motivation, belief, and timing, which happens a lot in January. And they will look at me in the eye and set their goal and take all of the steps and set it and put the value. And then I'll say, but what if it's hard? What if you fail? What if there's challenges and all that stuff, like serious challenges? And they're like, nothing's stopping me. And I'm like, hey man, that sounds like a formula for success. But then a week later, it's completely gone. So if that's ever happened to you, or if that's happening to you right now, I can just tell you right off the bat that that's because you built the idea that you could achieve based on the fact that you were experiencing emotions of motivation, belief in yourself, and timing. So that's the farce of January. So once the work comes into play, the work, by the way, is hard, and it's part of the failure and the letdown. The work, once the work comes into play, and the time and energy and money that is involved in reaching your goals, that's when people start to struggle. Over 90% of that group 2, comes up when the work comes into play. And like I said, when they first struggle, when they first fail, 90% of that group will reach into their big bag of bullshit and pull out what I call a handy dandy excuse or a hall pass. And I've done some rise ups on that, which actually gives them a get off the hook pass, right? Because when you quit on something, you don't want to acknowledge that you've quit. So what you'll do is you'll create an excuse. That's what an excuse is. An excuse is the most wonderful thing in the world. An excuse gives you the ability to quit. Okay. So they don't like failure. So they don't like failure. So they call it something else, like bad timing. Right. So if you want to get away from failure, it's really simple. Just call it bad timing. Or they'll actually revert to the justification that they are overwhelmed right now. Think about that. Have you ever backed out of a goal based on the fact that you were overwhelmed? Probably, right? So, or use a great excuse like getting sick or a family tragedy. Now that's an interesting thing. Like when there are certain types of things that happenings that are really rough, like a family tragedy or somebody dying, or pandemic, or losing your job and stuff like that. But once again, I just want to give you access to seeing something. You'll notice that people that succeed actually have those things happen to them too, but they don't stop. So, that's when we go a little bit below the line as a victim, is we go, you don't understand my situation. And the truth is I do, because in my own way, I've been through that situation. From the top of the mountain, people look down at the people claiming they want to climb the mountain. And they say, you see what that person's going through right now and contemplating quitting? I got to this point at the top of the mountain by going through something like that, maybe worse, and going through it and growing through it. So that's the tough part about mentoring and coaching people, is when somebody is in that mode of pulling out their excuse and protecting the position that it's not a good time, and you say something to them like calling bullshit, right? I just put up a reel on Instagram on that. They are going to ghost you at that point, because if you threaten somebody's bullshit position, they're out. So that 90% is tough. So the hard part about that group is that their excuses are valid to them, right? Not to the person that's been through those things and fought through them, but to them it's valid, and it would be highly inappropriate to challenge them because of the headspace that they're in. A lot of you are in this position. And all I would say from the safety of being behind this mic and a podcast is I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit because I don't care what it is. Because listen, when we get to the next category and you see how we actually reach goals, it ain't easy. And you gotta claw your way to the top. And then when you get to the top, you realize that it's a false summit. You aren't at the top and you say, oh my God, there's another top. And that's not the top, right? It's these things that you say you want are hard, but worth it. The juice is worth the squeeze. So their results in this second category in follow through are minimal, right? They don't follow through a lot in this category because they've just set the goal. Remember, these are the goal setters. Somewhat better than those in the first group, but as I said, minimal. Here's a statistic that'll kind of phase place you as well. When it comes to New Year's resolutions, I mean, the very nature of that is goal setting. That's the second group. 41% of Americans, which is like what, 315 million people, 41% of Americans will actually set New Year's resolutions this year, but approximately, and we don't know how accurate this is, but it sounds good to me, 9% will actually follow through. So there's the goal setters. If you're a goal setter, you're taking a big risk of not achieving your goals. And that risk is associated with the fact that you don't even know if you got another day left. So there's the risk. So then there's group number 3, which we call the goal getters. Now, I never heard anybody say that before, and I'm sure I'm not the one that created it, but I've always been training people to goal get versus goal set. And that's a shift right now is say, I'm in 2022, I'm going to be a goal getter. So this is a very small group. I mean, extremely small. Some of the statistics, I think in America, one of the statistics is that only 1% of Americans make more than 250 grand a year, right? So that's that little 1%, of success. Are those people lucky? Well, let's look. Why did those people set a goal and get them? So this small group can be counted on your hand in your community. I mean, how many people do you know really follow through? I mean, they might follow through on something that is not associated with their goals. Maybe they're a good friend and things like that, which is a good trait if they can apply that to something else. But how many people do you know are really, really goal getters? So the ones that set them and then get them, that's what we say. They set their goals, even if it was a New Year's resolution, but then they go, and timing's a big part of that, right? Timing's a big part of it, unless you're quitting because it's bad timing. Remember, the 3 false observations in goal getting is that the timing needs to be right, you need to be motivated, and you need to believe in yourself. The reason why those are false is because if you are going after something based on that, and those 3 sensitivities go away, well, then you're going to quit. And I don't know about you. Do you know anybody that is motivated 365 days a year? You know that anybody that never gets sick and stubs their toe and has a challenge? I don't. And I'm pretty motivated. So then the reason why there are so few is not because they're lucky or predisposed to, with this success gene that we hear about. It's just an acknowledgement that if you get to the table at the top with the other goal getters, that you'll see that there's an abundant amount of seats for everyone, including you. There's actually a seat at the top of the mountain for you. And it's just sitting there waiting for you. It's not a matter of you. It's just a matter of your due, right? So this group, for some reason, this small group sitting at this massive table with a ton, way more empty seats, 99% of the seats are empty. This group, for some reason, makes radical sacrifices and almost obsessively goes after their goals no matter what. Now, when you obsessively go after something, what does society say about you? It's unhealthy. Look at the biggest, most successful people in the world. They have no life, right? All they do, but look at it. Success leaves clues. So their interface response system, these people at the table, is different than groups 1 and 2. And what I mean by that is the way they react to challenges, perceive, react, and move on from challenges is different from 1 and 2. They don't have excuses, right? So they weren't born that way. That's another thing, is they weren't born. They didn't come out of the womb like that. They became that way, and so can you. And that's the good thing. So the things that you've identified as valid reasons to retreat and quit after, and quit going after something, are not of value to them, right? They don't put enough value on their why nots that they're strong enough to take them away from their goals. They made a decision that, what it is that they want is more important and valuable than anything else. They will literally die before they quit, and nothing to stop them. All of the valid excuses and challenges that happen to them, and they happen to them just as much, they just don't matter. They go away because of this idea that their why is more powerful than their why not. So they fail way more than succeed, just like you. And while in action, that's what's happening. But they embrace the obstacles and learn lessons, which Ryan Holiday talks about, and obstacle is the way. All the information's there. They embrace the obstacles as learned lessons and as part of the recipe for success. They are relentless, group number 3, while watching them go. You can actually see them. Somebody like this. You can actually confidently see and put your money on the fact that they will win. Why? Not because of their talent, because you see that they never quit. I see people like, just somebody that you might have not have ever heard about. This guy, Mark Savant, who I'm going to partner with in this new idea. The reason why is because I've seen this guy for 2 years, never quit. So shout out to him. He's got a great podcast as well. So there's no quitting these people. So they give up the good to get the great. They get rid of all things and people that are not in full support of their goals and dreams. They don't watch Netflix and chill. They do embrace, the things that matter most to them, but they're messy. They're messy, these people. No days off for them, only days on. Most people in groups 1 and 2 can't stand these people and actually put them down and say that they're obsessive and unhealthy. And the reason why groups 1 and 2 do that is to protect their position, because group 3 goal getters highlight the bullshit that groups 1 and 2 are using to not get their goals. But they set them every year. Right? They either don't or set them every year, but they think that it's like that whole have your cake and eat it too. They think that there's some sort of magical way, and maybe there's 5 people out there that reach their goals without trying. But they're all wondering what what their secret ingredient is and stuff. But you'll see them downplaying, say, I don't want to work that hard, or something like that. So if you're in groups 1 or 2, you know exactly why you haven't reached the top of the mountain, but you also know now that you can, if you've decided to. If you're in group 2 and you want to break the cycle and win this year, how do you do that? So I've identified some characteristics. I'm going to give them to you right now. So if you're in group 1, you have to at least move to group 2. By the way, I'm wearing my brother Jamil Fraser's shirt. It says your goals don't give a damn. And that's another thing to realize, is that time and your goals could care less about your 1 and 2 excuses. So I'm going to go over some characteristics and steps. Now, the cadence that I want you to write down is, I'm just going to give you 4 sentences, and then I'll explain them. So the first one is what. The second one is why. This is the system of setting and getting. What, why, and then the third one is what's missing, and then the fourth one is decide. Okay, those are the 4 words. So it starts by acknowledging this, right? Somebody asked Gary Vee, what are the 3, in 3 words, what's the secret to success? And Gary Vee says, you're going to die, right? Which you don't want to hear, but it's true, right? Death and taxes. So reality check, you're going to die, right? You and I. That's right. So don't make the mistake in thinking, this is the greatest mistake. This is what Buddha says. The greatest mistake that we ever make is thinking that we have time. That's one of your excuses in your big bag of bullshit. It's a bad time. Like you see all this stuff going on with like cryptocurrency and NFT. Everybody knows it's going to be huge because it is huge, right? But it's not a good time. I speak to people all the time. What I do is I teach people how to build a home-based business, a coaching business, and make tons of money in little time and enjoy being happy, healthy, and wealthy, which is what everybody wants. And I tell them I will work with you for 5 years and actually help you build that business. And we will win if you do X, Y, Z. And they look at me and they go, and keep in mind, they're struggling, living check to check if they're lucky, working like 60 hours a week, and they're miserable in life. Mistake that they think they have time. So they say to me, it sounds great, but it's not the right time. So what's their mistake, right? So develop a mortality mentality and build urgency, right? I build my urgency because I don't even know if I have this day. So step 1, I said, decide what you want and allow yourself to dream big. Don't look at the future through the lens of the past where you never truly went after things in the past. Don't look at the future through the lens of the past. Dream as big as you want, not as big as you can. Dream as big as you want, not as big as you can, and break free from your program mind and become open to possibilities. That's what dreaming is about. It's irrational. So set your goals irrationally. Dream big. So the next one is the why. Identify why you want it. You can't just decide what you want, but and the why is where you build the urgency. This is really important. And I have a great exercise for that in the 15 days of discipline. So what is the true value that will come into your life by achieving that goal? What will actually happen to you, your health, your family, your free time, your status, how long you'll live and all that stuff. How will your life change for the better? This is the value when you reach your goal. How will the things and people that matter most win from it as well? That's a great thing to consider. How will it impact people around you? Make your goal as valuable and as sexy as the air that you desire when somebody is physically holding your head underwater. Make sure that you go through this exercise of building your why, not just because Simon Sinek says it, right? Actually do it. Write your goal and draw like spokes from it and just connect everything that becomes better as a result of hitting that. And then all of a sudden you start to realize if you don't do that, when we go to the next step and you identify where your struggle is and what's holding you back, you need to have something that's more powerful than that, or you'll always revert to that because that's easy. This is inconvenient. So the next step is the word is what's missing. So get clear on what's missing. Why don't you have it? This thing that you want, this sexy, big, hairy, audacious goal, why don't you have it? What's missing? Like, go back and find out where's the kink in the hose. Get curious here. Cognitively distance yourself from this idea of you getting this goal. Cognitively distance yourself as a detective, right? Get curious and simply identify the kink in your hose. What's missing? Meaning, why don't you have this? What's holding you back? What's changed over the past couple of years? And you're going to blame something or someone or whatever. Are you in the wrong structure? One of the things when I bring people into my business structure, it's a structure that I know works. So I put people in a structure that works, a car that takes them into town because they're in a rocking chair trying to move forward. Are you in the right structure? Because you could be working your ass off in the wrong structure and there's just, you've reached a ceiling. Right? You can't own the company, so you need to move your structure sometimes. So you're in the wrong structure. Are you abandoning, is another one, the action steps due to someone or something distractive that's not truly important? So identify the kink and commit. Ask for help if you need it. Get a mentor or coach. That's why I guide people through it. I can see the kink when you can't. So identify the kink and commit to unkinking it. I don't know if that's a word. To unkink. I'm sure it is. So the kink won't go away on its own because you created the kink as a fail-safe measure to get out of the danger of failing or being overwhelmed. Absorb that. The kink in your hose that's holding you back You created it because you perceived that that thing is a valid reason for quitting. You created that. It's Gay Hendricks that wrote The Big Leap calls that an upper limit problem. It's a fail-safe measure to get you out of danger. So it's running on autopilot, meaning it's unconscious. So you don't even know that the kink is there. So you have to consciously distance yourself and become conscious and identify the kink or get help. I can find people's kinks in a second. So bring your kink to me. So flush it out, remove it. You got to remove it. And then the last step is you got to make a quality decision. That word is decide. You're going to make a quality decision to go after this goal no matter what. Now, this is a tough one. This is the difference right here. Because it's one thing to make a decision, but then you have to follow through. I wrote this down as a side note here. What are you committed to? I'm going to ask you that right now. Here's how you can identify what you're committed to. What is it that you're going after all in, even when you're not motivated? So when we talk about making a quality decision, it's this place where your commitment, your decision, your commitment becomes attached to things like obsession and the practice of discipline. When you start practicing discipline, it means over time, you're going to build discipline. It doesn't work right away. So, great episode with the amazing, the real Doug Woods. And you can find that. I don't remember what number it is, but Doug Woods is big on talking about the fact that, listen, if you're not obsessed with your goals, you're not going to get them. If you want to be a goal getter, you have to create a goal that you become obsessed with in an almost perceived by the society unhealthy way. So you got to make a quality decision to go after something no matter what. And those are some of the reasons. So embrace the suck. You have to embrace the suck. It's going to suck, which is why you got to make it so sexy. Success and winning is inconvenient, very inconvenient. And only people at the top of the mountain know that. Everybody else runs from inconvenience. That's why they look for a distraction. That's what video games are for on your phone. It keeps you from the things that you know you need to do. So the ingredients in the recipe for success call for more failure and letdown than wins and victory. So if you're trying to bake a success pie, you need to fail more. You're not failing enough. So that's because the wins, we don't mind that because the wins are so much more valuable than the losses and the struggles and the letdowns. You think the letdowns have power, but you haven't experienced the win yet because you didn't swing the pickaxe one more time to get the diamonds. So make sure that you don't give up when you fail. And the easiest way to do that is to recognize that if you're failing and you're trudging uphill right now, that means you're on your way because that happens more. So that's why you have to be obsessed. So maybe an exciting new business contact or even post that goes viral or something like that. I put that down there because, when you see something like that happen, you get all excited and that can dip you into that false excitement. But what happens when you put up a post and it doesn't go viral and it doesn't get a lot of response or something like that? Did you fail? No, that's going to happen more than the other. Right? We're all trying to get that viral, exciting thing. We want the quick fix. And I get it. I've been there. But that's not how success works. So just think about that stuff. So that's the recipe. That's the recipe for success. So a day, this is one of my favorite new things to say. A day of eating dog shit goes away as soon as you taste the spoon filled with caviar. Isn't that amazing? So you could eat dog shit every day, but as soon as you put a spoon of caviar in your mouth, you forget about the dog shit. So if you're experiencing dog shit right now, you're right on track. So embrace that you will have letdowns more than you will have success and wins. So get excited that obstacles are in your way because they are the way. So hope this was valuable to you. Love and appreciate you all. A lot of great stuff coming. I'm going to interview my daughter and we're going to talk about that whole story, which we call Are You There Yet? Just 2 years of failing at something, which is pertinent right now. And then just never quitting and becoming obsessed and almost being unhealthy with that obsession, but then we win. We've got the caviar now. So happy New Year, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Have a great, great morning and a great day. I hope that this set you straight for the day. Use this in the right structure, and we will be with you constantly. We've got a lot of great guests coming up this year. Love and appreciate you.